It's Monday in South Carolina. Welcome to the Touchdowns 5 Points podcast presented by Harrison Williamson Cross Country Mortgage. Memorial Day Monday. We thank and appreciate our fallen heroes on this Memorial Day and remember them. Hope everyone had a great day, long weekend. Thomas, school's kind of wrapped up, spring semester. You just went through grad week. What's the situation for the summer with touchdowns for those students and Columbians listening to this episode?
We're gonna keep all of the same days that we're typically open. We're gonna remain open. We're just going to reduce the hours a little bit. So we're not going to open until 8 p.m. on Wednesdays and Thursdays, and we're not going to open until 6 p.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. We will still open for lunch on Sunday and continue to do dollar wings. We do dollar wings every Sunday year round. So that's, that's how we're changing it up for the summer. Just reducing the hours a little bit, giving me the opportunity to sleep in a little bit later until things pick back up in the fall. And it was definitely, this week was the first week of summer officially. Graduation was May 7th, 8th, and 9th, but even the week after that, a lot of people were still in town, and it was not as busy as the semester had been, but it was solid. This past week it was summer.
Yeah. Well, if you're out in Columbia, just wanted to remind people Touchdowns is still open. Go have yourself a cold one and some good food if you're in town this summer as a student, or if you call Columbia home. Just a reminder that Touchdowns down at 5 Points is open. But let's get into what we're talking about today, Thomas. The first thing on the docket, as many people have probably seen, we canceled our home and home with UNC. That was set to be played in 2028 and 2029. Mutually, a mutual agreement to cancel it. This has been a theme. We canceled the home and home with Miami. I believe we canceled with Virginia Tech a home and home already. That was scheduled for like 2032 and 2033 or something like that. So it's interesting, a lot of these games are scheduled 10, 12 years in advance, and just how the landscape changes has led to these cancellations. I think it's extremely disappointing. I think UNC is, again, a home and home. What a great home and home. Like, it's not a traditional rivalry, but it's the two flagship universities of North and South Carolina. We played them in Charlotte some, and we played them in the Duke's Mayo Bowl. We played them in the Duke's Mayo kickoff game. We had a home and home with them back when we were in school. We played them I think that was my sophomore, maybe 2013.
Yes,
and we had played
13.
Yeah, and then we had played them that was in Columbia. We had played them in Chapel Hill during the Chris Smelly, Blake Mitchell era. So I think probably that was 08, 09 maybe. But I think, this would be a fun matchup. Bill Belichick's at UNC. Who knows if he'll still be at UNC by 2028 if this didn't get canceled. But I'm pretty pissed off about this, and I don't really like this. And I know exactly what you're going to say, but go ahead and say it, and let's begin this conversation about this cancellation of the UNC home and home.
Well, yeah. What I'm going to say, and what I was going to say, is that this is going to continue to be the new norm, because I've been saying that until the committee fixes how they reward strength of schedule. ADs are going to, in my opinion, schedule as easily as possible in non-conference. Now, for us specifically, we're going to play Clemson every year. So already our non-conference schedule is going to be a lot tougher than most teams in the country because we are going to always play that Power Four matchup against Clemson in the non-con, even though we are now playing 9 conference games. A lot of our contemporaries, you love to kind of shit on Missouri for their non-conference schedule, but they're going to have the Missouri's going to have the 9 SEC games and the 3 easiest cupcakes they can possibly find. And that is going to be the strategy for a lot of teams. We have Clemson, Kentucky has Louisville, Florida has Miami and or Florida State that they play pretty regularly.
They play Florida State every year.
Yeah, so there are plenty of teams that they are not going to cancel those in-state rivalries against non-conference opponents, which is just going to make their schedules a little bit more difficult than the rest of the field. But for those final remaining 2 games, I would expect Donati and all of our future ADs to continue to try and make those as easy as possible. And I know that that's not what the fans want to see. That I think we replaced North Carolina with Bowling Green State. That's not a game that you get excited to go to the stadium for, but I would say that the matchup in 2029 against even the App State game is in jeopardy because, I think that he'll look to find an easier win than that. Although I literally just thought of this as we were filming just now. If the field does get expanded to 24 teams, which is also something that you and I are both against, but let's say that does happen and you see some 9-3, 8-4 teams start to get into the field that way, that might potentially allow for a little bit more competitive non-conference schedule. Like maybe some ADs will loosen up, but people are they are simply just reacting to the way things are right now, which is, the goal for everyone is to make the 12-team playoff and try to win a national championship. And the committee has shown that they value record above all else when ranking teams. So if you're an AD and your job is to get the football team in the field, you're going to do everything within your control to guarantee wins, and that means that you're going to schedule as easy as possible in those non-conference games.
Yeah, and I guess but here's the kicker to that too is, and what I think these ADs are running scared, and I understand the concept of what they're doing. I mean, yeah, like you said, Missouri does it, Indiana did it. 3 cupcakes in September, and then they play 9 Big Ten games. A lot of Big Ten teams do it. Ohio State's really the only one that has balls, and Michigan, I would say Michigan too. They're playing. They got home and homes with Texas and Alabama, and even Wisconsin did a home and home with Alabama. I don't know. Those games didn't get canceled. Texas is going to Ohio State's playing Texas next year, and you might say Texas got fucked by playing Ohio State, but they didn't.
I think the main reason that Texas didn't cancel that game is because they had already played the road game. They want the home game revenue. that's why that like, but I think like Sark has made some veiled complaints about like them having to play Ohio State, whereas I think he took a shot at Texas Tech, and that's mainly just because he's butthurt that he has to play Ohio State this year. It's like, I mean, I get it. Texas does have a much harder schedule than Texas Tech, but also Sark, like you have an unlimited budget. Like you're at Texas, quit crying. Like you're at the top of the food chain. Like you should be able to win these games.
But also like go win the game instead of just like crying that you have I get it. There's schedule imbalance throughout college football, but like I think running from games is not the answer. Like look at what it said. Look at what happened with Miami last year. If they played Florida A&M instead of Notre Dame, they have the same record. But instead of but that win against Notre Dame is literally what got them in the playoff. Because they played and won that game, it allowed them to have some fuck ups later in the season. So, in my opinion, the committee is valuing these games, and they should be played. And yes, then you have a situation of Texas where Texas fans felt like, oh, if we went 10-2 and didn't play Ohio State, and we played Texas State instead of Ohio State, and we went 10-2, we probably would have been in the playoff. And maybe you would have, maybe you wouldn't have, but you would 100% be guaranteed in the playoff if you beat Ohio State. So my point is, quit being scared and canceling these games. Instead, play them. And when you win them, you get rewarded. Like, you shouldn't get rewarded for losing. Like, I get it. You played a tougher opponent, but that's what you run the risk. It's a risk reward. You run the risk of getting the benefit of the win. But you shouldn't get rewarded for losing. That's the risk you're taking. A win against a Power 4 win is better than a cupcake win.
What I'm saying is, when Donati's sitting down at his desk, he's saying that the risk of us playing 11 Power 4 games versus, Missouri playing 9 is not worth the reward. And I agree with him, because our strength of schedule with 9 SEC games plus Clemson is hard enough. The teams that need to be really going out on a limb to bolster their strength of schedules are, these the Big 12 teams, the ACC teams, the Group of 5 schools that you love so much. They're the ones that need to, get creative in scheduling. Like, we this year are going to play.
How are they supposed to get creative in schedule when all these ADs are canceling fucking home and homes?
I mean, it's tough, but you got to figure it out.
What? So, you're asking them to get creative, and then we're about to cancel a fucking game against App State because we're scared to play it? Do you know how you sound? Like what? Like, if we're not willing to play a fucking game against App State,
I'm saying it wouldn't shock me if we try and sub that out.
Playoff games.
But Beck, we are going this year. South Carolina is going to play at Alabama. We're going to play in the Swamp. We have to play Georgia. We're going to play at Clemson, and we're going to play Texas A&M. I don't know if Florida will be ranked when we play them, but Alabama is going to be in the top 10, the top 15, if not the top 10. A&M is going to be in the top 15, if not the top 10. Georgia's going to be in the top 5. Clemson will probably be in the top 25, or they could be in the top 25. I don't know, but it's like, we don't need that. We have a guaranteed 4 to 5 top 25 matchups every single year, just with our conference schedule and Clemson. So, like, why make it any more difficult than it already is? And I get it, dude. Like I would love for it to go to every single Power 4 school has to play 11 Power 4 games or 12. All, like every single Power 4 school has to just, their entire schedule is Power 4 games. That way, everyone is mixing it up. We get all these good non-conference matchups. The records, figure themselves out. You don't have the situation where, Texas A&M or Indiana or these schools that are, the conferences are so big now, and that they're too big for divisions. And so just by the luck of the draw, every single year there's going to be a school in these 18 team conferences that just gets to play like 6 of the bottom 10 schools in their conference, and that's going to inflate their record. But if we were playing 11 or 12 Power 4 games every year, and they had to play 2 or 3 non-conference games against a real team, they would either win those games and prove that they're good, like you're saying, or they would drop a couple, and it would unveil them. It would be a lot more difficult to be a fraudulent team if we had more blending of the conferences. And I agree with you, and I want that as well. I'm just saying none of the ADs are going to want to go for that until it's a rule that everybody has to do it, or the committee rewards the ones who do.
Yeah. I mean, well, and that's, yeah, you hit the nail on the head. That's what I want, is I want basically all Power 4 teams playing Power 4 teams. You play non-conference games, and you play 3 non-conference games against Power 4. And, there's an even amount of teams in the Power 4. There's 16 in the Big
and
Big 12,
something else?
16 in the SEC, 18 in the Big 10, 18 in the ACC.
You know what else that would do, Beck? In my opinion, that would really revive bowl games, because I think with the the playoff has made bowl games a lot less exciting and meaningful, because there aren't really that many great teams outside of the playoff field. There's a couple that are good teams that don't make the field. But if we went to 12 Power 4 games every single year, it would actually be really impressive to win 6 games. I think you would see a lot of teams that are typically bowl eligible because they win 3 or 4 non-conference games against, nothing opponents.
Yeah.
Those teams aren't going to be I think a lot of bowl games aren't exciting because a 7-5 team under the current way that the schedules are done is just a bad team. Whereas if you're playing 12 Power 4 games and you're 7-5, you're probably still a really good team, and it would just make those bowl matchups a lot more exciting as well.
Yeah. Well, dude, I mean, hey, that's a great point. I didn't even think about that. And I agree with you there. That's a great point. And all these decisions that are the landscape of college football and how it's been changing over these years, it's all money driven, and it excludes the fan. And I believe this solution generates money and it makes the fans happy. Like when a season ticket holder, if you're a season ticket holder at South Carolina, you get 7 home games, but the first 2 games this year are against Kent State and Towson. Like, imagine if you had a UNC on the schedule along with the SEC games, like, or and it's just going to get teams that, once you start rotating Power 4, maybe some schools and conferences start to click up, and it's like, I've always said we should play we should rotate the North Carolina school. Like, we should play UNC one year, then NC State, then Wake Forest, then, Duke. Like, just rotate those four schools, and it's a good game for them. It's a good game for us. That's driving distance for the entire fan base. Majority
throw
of the
Georgia
fan.
Tech. Like,
Georgia
I think
Tech
it would
too.
be cool. I think it'd be cool if we played, a Power Four team that is not Clemson every year. That's like within a 5-hour drive, just so like you can you have, because I mean, shit, dude, how many people have made the away trip to Missouri since they joined the conference in 2012? Like, that's just like that trip is just a pain in the ass. Like, and it's not that exciting of a destination. But like, if we were playing teams like you said in North Carolina, Georgia, even the top of Florida, like, you could go to those games as a fan and experience a different stadium and a new city. It'd be like a bowl game within the season.
That's what I'm saying.
And to your point about it being money driven, I agree with that. But something I've never understood, like these geniuses that are in charge of everything, like, I can't imagine that South Carolina, Kent State is going to get great TV ratings.
That's what I'm saying. Go into a TV rights deal negotiation, and every Power 4 team is play. Like, you have good games every single week of the season. Like, the Big Ten is unwatchable in September, except for Ohio State's going to play Texas,
right?
And Michigan's going to play Oklahoma. There's 2 fucking games in the Big Ten that are watchable in September because all they do is play cupcakes in September, and the SEC is guilty of it too. The week before rivalry week is the cupcake week in the SEC. There isn't a fucking game worth watching unless you're a fan of that team.
Right.
And it has no appeal. Like, imagine if we, in our instance, like, because we're playing Clemson in rivalry week and not a conference game, like, we're playing Georgia the week before Clemson this year.
Right.
Florida will probably have an SEC game. Georgia is obviously playing us. Kentucky will have an SEC game. But imagine if these, like LSU and Alabama, Auburn, and those teams that are going to end up playing conference games on rivalry week, if they were playing an out-of-conference Big 12 or ACC or Big 10 school.
Right.
And you just run the slate, like,
it would be better for the ratings. Like, people would watch those games. Like, yeah, it would. More people would go to the stadium. More people would watch those games on TV. I've never understood why, like, the people that are behind all the TV stuff and like care about the money, why they haven't been more like they're so keen on explaining
it's like the playoff is the only way to make money on
right.
TV.
It's like, you could increase revenue if you got rid of these shitty games in the regular season as well.
Yeah, like, that's the NFL. I mean, and I don't want college football to be the NFL. Let me state that very clearly. But that's the NFL selling point, is like, they sell 17 weeks, and it's a guarantee. Like, that they have no off weeks. They sell a full package of games, and there's always going to be key matchups and games worth watching, and everyone just watches them. Even the Thursday night Jags versus Titans, everyone, even though people think it's a joke matchup, everyone still watches it. Like, but I think, you don't need to expand to 24 teams to try and make more, like, high dollar games. Like, think if on November 21st this season, like, LSU is playing Wisconsin or something, and LSU is like 9-2, and Wisconsin's 8-3. Like, it's like a chance for Wisconsin maybe to, like, get a win to put themselves into the conversation. It could potentially knock LSU out of the, like, that would be must-see TV And it's just like, and instead LSU's going to be playing McNeese State,
Right.
and Wisconsin's going to have already played McNeese State in September, and they're going to be playing Rutgers.
And just in case, the committee's watching this, they haven't seen our idea from previous episodes as to how we would keep these smaller schools alive, because these schools do depend on those games to fund their athletic departments. We can do paid spring game matchups or paid preseason games. Many coaches have expressed a desire for a preseason, so you get a real look before the season actually starts. So, yeah, I don't want to see South Carolina State or the Citadel or a lot of these other programs that their athletic department depends on Charleston Southern, playing these games against us or Clemson, go away. But we could play them in the spring and sell tickets to that and give them whatever we usually give them for an in-season game for the spring game, or in August, at the beginning or end of fall camp. There are ways to do that. And that is something that the University of South Carolina could certainly afford to do. All the big Power Four schools that currently pay these teams to come get their ass beat during the season could pay them to do that in the spring or in the preseason, and they would make all that money back and then more by then replacing that game with a real home game. Whatever we fucking give South Carolina State to come play us in fall camp, we would make that back when we get to open with UNC instead of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, there's always going to be plenty of money. Fans are going to go, we're going to go to Willie B. If there's a game taking place there, I know that the spring game is it's typically a free event, and some people probably like that, but I don't think it would be hard to sell tickets to it if people understood that it's going to be a real competitive game. In fact, I would be a lot more excited about seeing what we look like in the spring against a team like that than just watching a scrimmage. Because then you get to see us actually play, compete a little bit.
Right. And it's like, we don't want to give looks in the spring. Well, you give it on September 5th when you play Kent State anyway.
Right. I mean, yeah.
Mississippi State's going to have tape on us.
There's only so much gamemanship that you can really have. And it's let's say that Bryles works out and he's our OC next season. Well, then they have all of this season's tape on it. You still have to adjust. You can't – your only strategy to success can't be that they don't know or they don't have any tape on you. That only
Exactly. No, it's spot on. And to kind of continue this conversation, I saw Lane Kiffin, just a tweet of a clip from a podcast that he went on discussing how SEC scheduling is harder. And I mean, I guess the point that he was making, to summarize it, was that there's in the SEC, you have to get up every week. The stadiums, the atmospheres are more difficult on the road, which that's pretty undeniable. In my opinion, the SEC does have premier stadiums and atmospheres, even if sometimes the teams, aka South Carolina, don't back it up. For as shitty as we are at football sometimes, Williams-Brice is still a environment that it's hard to go in and win. But he basically said, that's where the SEC differentiates itself, and what he's fighting as an SEC coach is the scheduling's imbalanced for the SEC. It had it basically, if you look at the quote tweets and a lot of it started a lot of discourse. So I just wanted to jump in on the discourse and start talking about. I thought it'd be interesting to talk about on the pod. One guy, Ari Wasserman, I think he works for On3, like he chimed in and talking about like the narrative that the SEC is better top to bottom, where bowl games, Big Ten and ACC have been beating the SEC in bowl games, and I think he specifically mentioned the Big Ten, not the ACC. But this is just more evidence for me and more reason for regular season non-conference matchups. Bowl games do not tell the story. It's not full rosters. To me, they've lost their luster. And I'd say the same thing if the SEC was beating the Big Ten in bowl games. I think they've become kind of a joke with all the opt-outs and things like that. But what's your opinion when it comes to scheduling and balance, Thomas? And do you feel like the SEC has it harder? Is the SEC, it almost kind of got into is the SEC better than the Big Ten type of debate?
I mean, I would say that I do still think that the SEC is the deepest conference. I think that top to bottom, I think that this is still reflected in draft picks. I still don't think that the Big Ten had more draft picks than the SEC in any year, even since they started winning national championships.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's like, the SEC still has the biggest concentration of NFL talent. I think that, each individual program is investing more money into their football program than most programs. Like, take us, for example. We were 4-8 last year. We weren't good, but we still were beating Alabama in the fourth quarter. And, we have a player like Dylan Stewart on our roster. We have Lenora Sellers. We have Nick Hart. Like, we have potentially 3 first-round draft picks in next year's class on a 4-8 team. Like, you just don't really see that in the Big Ten. Like, I don't know who was 5-7 or 4-8 in the Big Ten last year. But like, I would say that typically the teams in the Big Ten that are at the bottom are like, Purdue, Northwestern, Michigan State recently has been bad. And, I just don't think that those programs really invest in football in the same way that, even Kentucky now, like, and it's from a stadium perspective, facilities, coaches' salaries, what they're spending on NIL. So yeah, I do still think the SEC is the deepest conference, despite the fact that we haven't won a national championship in the past 3 years. But I don't really care. I think that Lane was mainly still spewing that out because, that is just kind of the propaganda that all SEC coaches kind of abide by because, it gives them grace when they don't succeed. Like, it's a lot easier, especially with all the pressure that he's under, jumping from Ole Miss to LSU and all the money that LSU shelled out. Imagine it doesn't go perfectly out of the gate. Like, him already preemptively saying, the Big 12 and the Big 10 have easier paths than we do, and I'm not winning at LSU because I have to go through a harder conference schedule than these other teams are. It preemptively. It's like he's building an excuse for himself before he even needs it. I've never been like an SEC homer. Like, I hate SEC teams more than most non-conference teams. The only reason that like I support the SEC as the best conference propaganda is because it is beneficial for South Carolina in recruiting, and I think it's a funny way to troll our Clemson fans. Like, I just think it's a funny thing to say that pisses them off. But I don't really care who the best conference is. I only care about South Carolina. So whether I agree with Lane or not, I mean, I guess I kind of do still, but I think it's kind of a pussy mentality to have, like, to be whining about my schedule's a little bit tougher than, Ohio State's or whatever. It's like, Lane, they just essentially dismantled 3 children's hospitals to build you your roster and hire your coaches. Like, no one gives a fuck if your schedule's hard. Like, win the games. You have the most resources. You left Ole Miss, which was willing to give you anything, to go to LSU, who gave you anything you asked for, because it's a better job, easier to recruit to. So you're at the job. You're at one of the meccas of college football, and you're talking about scheduling. Like, shut the fuck up. Are you a good coach or not?
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely under. I like your point about him building in excuses. Well, and I think too, it's just the way of today's day and age. If you say it enough and if it gets out enough on the internet, like, people believe it, like, and then it starts to create like this sense of reality, even if it maybe is, may or may not be true, but if enough people hear it, they start to believe it, and then I do think it gives, like, coaches do it so that when there is discussions around playoff seeding and rankings, and I think that's some of the, I mean, it's definitely been some of the bias that's been created, I think, with the committee too. And I like, because the committee, again, they're humans, and they're hearing this stuff. Like, they're not watching football, or they're not football experts. Like, they're fucking politicians and TV people, and there maybe is one former coach in that room. I can't remember who all is on the committee, but it's like, they're all administrative people. Like, they're not football people.
They have an assistant that gives them notes before they go into the meeting each week. They don't know what the fuck is going on.
I mean, yeah, just like, I think that's the worst job in America, is being the head of that committee, because you just have to go on TV once a week and just embarrass the fuck out of yourself.
Yeah, you have to be they draw straws about who's going to be the fall guy this season.
Yeah, like, you just have to fucking look like a dumbass on national TV every Tuesday when Reese Davis is interviewing you, like, and everyone's just like, this guy is he's just contradicting everything he said last week, like. So I do think, yeah, Lane, I thought it was intriguing, and I just thought it more and more just supported I flagged it, because I was like, this just supports more and more what I want, which is non-conference Power 4 matchups, 3 of them, so we could really get a sense of that 8-4 team in the SEC actually is better than that 9-3 team or 10-2 and 9. Like when you're talking about rewarding strength of schedule and things like that, I think that creates more data instead of just, again, Indiana and Missouri. If they both go 9-3, they beat their 3 cupcakes in September, and then they go, 6-3 in the Big Ten and 6-3 in the SEC. It's hard to tell who is better. Like maybe they both have a ranked win, but if some of their opponents were played, maybe if South Carolina had played Wisconsin, and that was a common, South Carolina had beaten Wisconsin, and then Missouri had beaten South Carolina, and Wisconsin had beaten Indiana, then you have some data to actually where there's some visual evidence of how, why you could rank Missouri over Indiana instead of just hypothesizing, I guess. So interesting stuff from Lane Kiffin. And yeah, I think, again, I'm a proponent of they shouldn't be complaining about the schedules at all. They get, the way they get paid and what the fans are putting into these programs. Like they shouldn't be complaining at all. Just go win and shut the fuck up. But interesting stuff from Lane. But wanted to end on, we've talked about it back when it happened, and just an article just got released about the NCAA investigating Ole Miss for the tampering with the player Luke Farrelly, the linebacker, and this is actually the start of the investigation. So we thought it was over. Ole Miss kind of steals a guy from Clemson. This guy was literally on campus, and Dabo went out in the media and really threw he really called out Pete Golding essentially, and it got huge news in the NCAA. In the college football world, the NCAA is investigating Ole Miss, but we don't know where it could potentially go. Like there might be a suspension for Pete Golding. Again, this is nothing concrete, but I thought this was still interesting. And based on what happens in this case, it's going to be a ripple effect because then you have some precedent going forward with some of these tampering things, Thomas.
Yeah. So I want to clarify this. I think that Ole Miss tampered, and if this had happened to South Carolina, I would be livid. The only reason that I found it funny is because it happened to Clemson. But I do think that Clemson got fucked and that Ole Miss did unequivocally tamper. The fact that an investigation has been opened is interesting because I feel like tampering just kind of is happening everywhere all the time. So, is this case being zeroed in on because of Dabo's statements that he made publicly? Like, did Dabo kind of force the NCAA's hand by the way that he reacted to it? Was that his goal? I'm not sure. If I'll say this, the Ole Miss LSU game week 3 is my most anticipated game of the season that South Carolina is not playing in. I'm more excited for that game than I have been for a non-South Carolina matchup in quite some time. So I really hope that game isn't affected. I hope that if there is a suspension for Pete Golding or something does come of this, it happens either after that game is played or it's somehow handled in a way that that game is not impacted. But for the betterment of the sport overall, it probably is good if Ole Miss is punished for this and a line is drawn in the sand somewhere. Uh, I don't expect the NCAA to be the governing body of college football for much longer, but if we can start to put in place some sort of guidelines, that will be beneficial for the sport because like I said, if a player had transferred to South Carolina and was already on campus and had been to practice, been to class, and then all of a sudden they're just not here anymore and they're enrolled at another school, like I would be pissed. So, and I think any fan base would be pissed if that happened to their team. So again, I do think it was tampering. It's only funny to me because it happened to Clemson, and the fact that an official investigation has been opened is interesting and something that we need to keep tabs on this show since we cover college football.
Yeah. This article, according to documents obtained by ESPN through an open records request, an NCAA Associate Director of Enforcement emailed Ole Miss Senior Associate Athletic Director for Compliance, Taylor Hall, on January 23rd, a couple of hours before a news conference in which Sweeney blasted Golding for allegedly tampering with Forelli. So the NCAA was on it before Dabo went public with it. I'm sure Dabo, maybe was aware that the NCAA was already involved, or he just wanted to fan the flame.
Well, in my opinion, Clemson definitely filed a complaint with the NCAA before Dabo said anything in his presser. So the timeline of things, the fact that the NCAA had opened the investigation before Dabo's public statements would lend to the narrative that they were on it before Dabo said anything. But in my opinion, Clemson probably notified the NCAA about this situation, which allowed them to open the investigation before Dabo.
Yeah, because all this shit was going down.
The way that I actually read that is once Dabo was notified that an investigation had been opened, he felt comfortable speaking about it publicly.
Fair. Yeah. Well, and it brought the attention. But, yeah, again, that was back on January 23rd, and it's May 25th. So it'll be interesting to see, like you said, that week 3 game, LSU Ole Miss. Who knows if this will be resolved prior to that, and what the potential punishment would be. Yeah, if they get it, maybe Ole Miss will just almost like cut a deal and just admit they did wrong, self-impose like a Sharon, and the Hill. I mean, I'm about to look up Ole Miss's schedule. I'm sure they play. Well, they play Louisville first week. Then they play Charlotte, and then they play LSU. I mean, I could see him maybe missing the Louisville and the Charlotte game, like self-imposed, depending on what the NCAA is going to find out. Because, like you said, I mean, this dude was on campus at Clemson. Like, it's got to be there's something going on for him to straight up already be enrolled at a school. And it wasn't like he was a Clemson player. He had transferred from California to Clemson, and then obviously some shenanigans going on with Pete Golding in that instance. But we'll see how it shakes out. But yeah, definitely something to monitor because I agree with you, and we'll definitely talk more about that LSU Ole Miss game as the season approaches, and that'll be Yeah, highly anticipated. That might be the most watched game of the regular season.
Yeah, if you're in Oxford, make sure you stock up on your batteries and mustard 2 weeks prior,
Yeah,
because they'll be sold out week of.
yeah, yeah. I would love to be in Oxford for that game. But I will be in Columbia watching us beat the shit out of Mississippi State, hopefully. But that was a good one. See, enjoyed that one. If you're out there, please go and follow us on socials: Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, Apple, Spotify. Please subscribe. We appreciate everyone who watches and listens. We're hoping to be more consistent and getting episodes out on Mondays. So one episode a week, leading up for the rest of the spring and summer, and until we get into football season. We're less than 100 days away.
This off season has gone by a lot quicker for me than they typically do.
You staying
But
busy. The
it just
summer's
feel-
going to drag because you're not going to be busy. Go
Yeah,
down and touch.
Yeah, summer is going to be a drag, but this first
Oh,
half of the year has flown by.
yeah. So we're almost there, almost to the best time of the year. Again, we appreciate everyone who watches and or listens. Please go subscribe. Please leave comments. Ross, get some clips out. Interact with those. Follow us on socials. Look forward to more of these, and definitely we're inching closer to football season and excited for that. So with that, we're going to wrap. We appreciate everyone listening. As always, go Cox.
Go Cubs.